right, thank you all for joining us for this Q&A discussion. We appreciate you all being here, and we're going to do our best to answer everyone's questions. We've got some questions that have been submitted previously in anticipation of this, and so that's what Brooke and Marissa are going to be working through. But also for our participants, feel free to use the Q&A feature. If you wiggle your mouse on Zoom, you should see a bar at the bottom that has all of these different options, and one of those is Q&A, and you can use that to submit questions to us that we can answer there. If we're not able to answer your question live, then Abby or myself will do our best to answer it in a text response back to you. So without further ado, I'll let Brooke and Marissa introduce themselves and we can get started.
Marissa, I'll let you start.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're excited to be here and kind of answer your questions. My name is Marissa. I'm a financial aid counselor, and I work in counseling and outreach. So I'm your first point of contact for anything financial aid and kind of to navigate you to who you need to go to outside of me if needed. Brooke?
Yeah, I'm Brooke. I'm a senior financial aid counselor and the team lead for our counseling and outreach unit. Like Marissa said, we are the team in our office that speaks with students. We're your first point of contact, but we are an office of about 50 people. So we have lots of subject area experts who can help with the nitty-gritty parts of financial aid. Our team works with students primarily that are receiving need-based financial aid. So that will be the bulk of what we talk about today. And we're going to start off with 3 questions that we get most commonly as financial aid counselors. And these are kind of an amalgamation of a lot of the questions that were submitted beforehand. And just a reminder, since this is recorded, if you have specific questions about your student's account, we would prefer to have that conversation with you one-on-one. So if that's the case, we'll provide our contact information at the end, but we do ask that these stay more general so that we aren't having to discuss anyone's specific financial aid.
So to get it all started, we'll kind of just start with like our main question with what is financial aid and how do you get it? So pretty much financial aid is the financial help. But how do you get it is at this point, you've probably filled out a FAFSA or a CSS profile. That's really the first steps and these steps to take to receive financial aid. And then you just do want to complete that by our priority deadline, which is March the 1st. Each year, the CSS is only required once, unless there's been like some drastic change in your financial situation. If you feel like that pertains to you, that is a personal question that you could definitely reach out to us for. But that is kind of the basics between what it is and how to do it.
The second question we get most often is what scholarships are available? So like I mentioned, we work primarily with need-based financial aid. So students are considered for our academic or merit-based scholarships when they're entering the university. And then from there, those opportunities do become more narrow. So students can check with their department for additional opportunities through them or can search for outside scholarships. We recommend that students research their own outside scholarships. We have a few platforms on our website. The Office of Distinguished Scholarships on campus also has a database students can search. And we're happy to walk with students to make sure that they are looking at reputable outside scholarships and that those will make sense for them. And in addition to that, the scholarships that we primarily offer are need-based. And so like Marissa said, in order to qualify for those, you do have to submit the FAFSA every year and you have to submit it on time. So our priority deadline is March 1st. And if you didn't already know, the FAFSA for 23-24, so next year, is open now. So you can go ahead and submit that FAFSA so that we can consider students for the best possible financial aid package. And I'm going to pose the third question to Marissa. So Marissa, what are loans and do I need to borrow loans? You're on mute, Marissa.
There we go. It didn't click. Thank you. So I think just to reiterate this question in another way too, that we hear very frequently is, are loans financial aid? And loans are financial aid. Sometimes we get students that, ask us, I didn't get any financial aid, and they were offered, their full amount in loans, and we have to help students kind of break down that. So loans are considered financial aid. They are another option to help cover those costs towards paying for college. We can help one-on-one if you have specific questions about, are loans the right decision for me? Do I need to actually take them out? How much? We can have those one-on-one conversations, because it's not a very generalized answer. It's going to be based on your personal situation. And then if students need additional loans, we do have other ways to go about that. So since Brooke did mention, we do meet need-based aid. The two federal loans are the federal subsidized loan and the federal unsubsidized loan. So at other universities, you might see both of those loans initially put into your financial aid award, whereas here at UNC, we only initially offer the federal subsidized loan, because that is the need-based loan if you do have need. So just because you've been given just that loan doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't other options for you, but that's what we're here for, to bring those questions and see how, we can navigate you to see if you do have more loan eligibility. Keep in mind that with taking loans here at UNC, if it's your first time, or depending on different requirements, there are loan requirements to actually get that loan to disperse to your account. If it's your first time, you have to do certain criteria that the federal government does put in place for you to be able to receive those loans. They're going to show up in your Connect Carolina as a financial aid to-do list item. If you read them and you have no idea what's going on, once again, we're here to kind of help navigate that and walk you through that. It does get a little confusing when you're looking at the aid years, because it is going to be the end aid year, and that does kind of confuse students. So if you have any questions with your financial aid to-do list, definitely let us know. And then I did touch on reaching out for borrowing decisions. We are 100% happy to sit down with you and give you the information about the loans. We will never encourage you to take a loan or to accept a certain amount or anything like that, just because that's not what we're here to do. That is a decision that is 100% based on your preferences and how to get your educational needs met. But we will provide you with all the information necessary and the tools to make that decision for yourself. So that was kind of a whole lot real quick on the basic 3 questions that we do get. We did get to have a second to take a look at your questions last week if they were submitted by then. We tried to make this very broad and try to capture those questions to the fullest without getting into specific personal situations. So Brooke, if you want to go over how that they can reach us, and then we'll open it for questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I already see a question in the Q&A chat. But before we move ahead too much, to get in touch with us, we're of course available via phone and email. Our phone hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. We're always available via email at aidinfo@unc.edu. We have in-person, virtual, and phone appointments available as well. We have FAFSA assistance appointments for our current students, so they can come and get help from their peer counselors on renewing their FAFSA for next year. And this might not apply too much to this group, but maybe you have other prospective students, but we also have prospective student appointments that are focused more on that application process and getting started and getting to Carolina. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with us. Oh, and we have drop-in hours. I almost forgot. We're here in Pettigrew Hall, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. No appointment needed. You can drop in and speak with a financial aid counselor. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just read out the first question in the chat. Someone said they don't know where to start for scholarships. So we do have a few search engines on our website that vet scholarship opportunities for students, and these will be outside scholarships. So unfortunately, after your first year, when you file the FAFSA, we're no longer considering you for those academic scholarship opportunities, just for need-based scholarships. So the first step, always, 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 is to file your FAFSA and file it on time. I can't say it enough. But then if you're looking for additional scholarship opportunities, you can use those outside scholarship searches or check with your hometown, organizations, other organizations that you might be involved with on campus to find out if they have other scholarship opportunities that you can apply for. Pettigrew Hall for drop-in appointments. I am reading these as they come in. I'll pitch the next question to Marissa. Marissa, what needs to be done to apply for in-state tuition?
So this is something that we don't necessarily handle. We have partnerships with a lot of offices outside of just our scholarships and student aid office. We partner with the cashier's office, the registrar's office, and admissions. And this is actually going to be a question that would be more posed towards residency, which would be in our registrar's office. Their website is super helpful. We also are going to provide you guys with some helpful links to different places and organizations on campus that do handle some of these different things that we would still navigate you towards if you reached out to us with these specific questions. So in order to apply for in-state tuition, you would have to be a North Carolina resident. That's the baseline. Past that, there are different discrepancies of if you're moving to North Carolina because you don't currently live there now, like different things like that. Those are the nitty-gritties you're going to want to get information from the registrar for. But a very basic answer is to get in-state tuition, you would have to live in the state of North Carolina to gain that tuition. And then I can go ahead and take this next one, Brooke, about the deadline for the FAFSA. We did mention that the priority deadline is March the 1st. That is, if you want the best financial aid package possible, that's the date that we use. The deadline is kind of like a hard question that we always get, and we're like, just do it, like just because the deadline is super late technically. If you go off of the federal deadline, it does stay open for quite a while, but to get the best aid from us, March 1st is going to be the deadline that we really push for.
Yeah. I'll just mention, sometimes if you just Google when the FAFSA closes, it's going to give you that really late deadline that Marissa was mentioning. But our deadline is March 1st. I saw where someone else asked if their renewal would be done online, and it would be. You'll log into studentaid.gov with your FSA ID, just like you normally would. The only difference is that this year, the FAFSA will save some of your demographic information. So you're not necessarily starting at 0 when you do a FAFSA renewal.
It looks like the next one says, how long does the loan process take? When should students be getting into the financial aid office to start discussion for next year? How long does the loan process take? That's a situational thing. Typically, you can look at it as you're being awarded initial financial aid if you do get offered a loan. We do have disbursement dates, so if everything is accepted and completed by then, that loan would then disperse to the account on the disbursement date. That is the very quick, short, easy answer. There are a whole lot of different avenues that this can go down depending on a plethora of different circumstances with the loans. And then to answer the second question on that is, when should students start getting into the financial aid office to start this discussion for next year? The FAFSA is open, so go ahead and get that done. If the questions pertain more to aid for next year, I would definitely say at this point, it's just going to be waiting till you get your aid award. So that way we can sit one-on-one with you and navigate that with you with actually something tangible to look at than going off of the what ifs. Brooke, do you have a different?
Yeah, I'll say a good rule of thumb would be before you leave campus in May to have your aid package in place for next academic year. So typically what that looks like is filing the FAFSA now as soon as possible if you can. You'll get your aid offer for next year early in the spring semester, I would say likely around February. And then we can look together again before you leave campus in May to make sure everything's good to go, that you've looked through your options, that you understand your costs for next year and your aid for the following year. Of course, we are here over the summer, but I think a great rule of thumb is just have that tied up before you leave campus in May.
It looks like Brooke, the next one is, how do we know if scholarships given this year will be given in subsequent years?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say for a specific scholarship fund to reach out so we can look into it and let you know. But most of our need-based scholarships will depend on the FAFSA. So filing the FAFSA on time and the information reported there.
And then it looks like we have another scholarship on what scholarships, if any, are available to minority students or students of color, specifically for graduate school.
Ooh, for graduate school. So for grad students, they will file the FAFSA if they want to be considered for federal student loans. When you are a grad or professional student, that is the only federal aid that you're eligible for, are those federal student loans. Other scholarship opportunities will come from either outside organizations or from the department you're applying to. So if you're applying for a grad program in romance studies, you can reach out to them to find out what scholarship opportunities they have. And each department will be different with their offerings. And the graduate school also has more funding information on their website that's more general to grad and professional students.
I am, the next question had, oh, I lost it. Give me just 1 second. We had a question that was asked, do we have an email address that's good for the registrar? Jalen looks like your man in that. So I was gonna say, I'll go and put it in there too. It's easier if we can just put that in the chat for you guys. And then, you know, hopefully we can get you some more resources out past this with more contact information. Let's see.
I can throw you a question, Marissa.
Go for it.
Okay, so if this year's FAFSA will use, or rather the FAFSA for 23-24 will use 2021 taxes, what happens if that's no longer relevant to a family's financial situation?
So we do have a process for aid reconsideration. We do understand that the FAFSA goes from year prior, so pretty much 2 years back. So we know that that's probably not reflective of your current situation. So we do have a process that we have. It's called aid reconsideration. You would complete a need analysis review. There is different criteria for what we do accept for a need analysis review. Some examples are job loss or taking major job salary cuts or pay cuts. If you're no longer receiving child support, that you had, you know, on your taxes that year. There's a whole lot of other ones. There is a section on our website that kind of breaks these down specifically to what we look at. And I always tell parents and students, if you find something on there that's not exactly relative to your or the exact situation that you're in, but you have something that's pretty similar, go ahead and submit it. We can't ever guarantee that we're going to be able to approve these things, but just share your situation with us, and that way we can kind of take a look at it and see how we can help you, because at the end of the day, that is what we want, is to be able to help and make it more affordable. But we just have to have your section in that first. So it's called a need analysis review, and then we have 2 different ones, but what you will most currently see is it's going to be under the dependent student, because most of your students are going to be still considered dependent. And this is a tactic that we use for undergraduate students only. This is not something that is going into the graduate school, because aid is just, there is no need-based aid for graduate school. So this is an undergraduate kind of avenue that we have.
And another part of that question that I didn't read out loud to Marissa, so I can't fault her for not answering. If you know that you are going to need to do this process for next year, you'll do it after you get your initial aid offer. So you'll do your FAFSA with 2021 tax information because you have to. There's no other way around it on the FAFSA. Then you'll get your initial aid letter from us, and that's when you would then apply for the aid reconsideration and complete that need analysis review that Marissa was mentioning.
Let's see, I'm trying to keep up with where we are.
There have been a few questions about billing, and I'll just mention that is handled by the cashier's office. They handle billing and installment payment plans, and their email is just cashier@unc.edu.
So we got that one, and then we have one that says, I'm confused about the deadline by March. Would students already receive their financial aid package?
Great question. So if you file the FAFSA between, let's say, now and February, yes, it's likely you'll already have your financial aid package by March. But as long as you do apply by March 1st priority deadline, like I said, you'll be considered for the full range of need-based aid options. I hope that clarifies, but let me know if not.
And then I can go ahead and take this next one. It says, is the FAFSA still required even if we plan not to use federal student aid? Yes, no. If you want to be well, at this point, you've already been screened for the need-based aid. So our need-based scholarships would be what we would use the FAFSA for, but if you pass that, if you don't plan on using federal student aid or don't, some students feel like they don't qualify, so they don't, there's no penalization for not completing it. You would just, the aid award wouldn't have anything on it. Pretty simple. But at this point, we do encourage, if you have someone who is an incoming student, we do encourage it just for going through and seeing if there is any need-based scholarships that could come out of it. But past that, it's kind of up to you.
Yes, we always recommend filing just to see what you qualify for, but if you know you haven't qualified in the past and don't plan to use federal student aid or state or institutional aid, then you simply wouldn't file. There was a question about, is it possible to get financial aid if the student is not American or a resident of the state? So in order to file the FAFSA and receive need-based financial aid at UNC, you do have to be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen. And the criteria for eligible non-citizen are on studentaid.gov, so that federal student aid website. So in general terms, international students are not eligible for need-based aid at UNC.
I will direct to, I don't think this has been answered yet. I know Brooke did mention some things about payment plans and things like that are for our cashier friends. This one just say that you guys didn't qualify for need-based aid. A current UNC student is running out of the 529, so looking towards getting a loan next year. Does this make a difference in the timing that you mentioned? I'm assuming that you're referring to the timing of the deadline for the FAFSA. I would say just complete it as soon as possible. Students, even if they don't get need-based aid, which is the federal subsidized loan, they do have loan eligibility for the unsubsidized loan. The only major difference is that the unsubsidized loan doesn't, it does gain interest while the student's in school, while the need-based version does not. But if you have more questions or want to sit one-on-one, we're happy to have this discussion more one-on-one. That might be a little bit more helpful. That way we can give you more details about different loan avenues as well outside of the federal loans.
Jalen and Abby, if I skipped a question, please. please draw our attention to it.
We have one of our favorite questions that we get often, Brooke. If you have 2 students who attend UNC, are there discounts?
I wish. The answer is I wish, but unfortunately, no. So the FAFSA will take into consideration if you have multiple students in college at the same time. But unfortunately, beyond that, being part of the expected family contribution calculation, sadly, we cannot offer a 2-for-1 discount. I wish. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna jump down to this question that has, we have a student here that's a junior, not currently considered for need-based aid in prior years. They have another child entering college, just submitting the FAFSA triggered the financial aid office to reconsider need-based aid change. That actually triggers or bounces right off of what Brooke just said, with adding in having, 2 students in college can make a difference on your EFC. So your financial aid could be different than before. So I would say we always suggest to submit the FAFSA anyways, just in case. But there could be a difference this year because your household to number in college is going to be different. So it's worth a shot to see if there is any aid that changes for both students involved.
Yeah. And when we get your FAFSA, that's exactly what we're doing with it. We're going to process your FAFSA and then award the need-based aid that the student is eligible for. So just by submitting the FAFSA, we know kind of what to do next. And then we'll let the student know, of course, what aid they qualify for. There's a question about, do I need to sign up each semester for a payment plan? Again, the cashier's office will be the experts in those installment plans and payment plans. So I don't want to say lest I get it wrong.
Let's see, we have a senior next year who'll be graduating. So lots of unknown at this point. How do we estimate the number of family members for the FAFSA as of now for next year? Same question for the number of students in college when filling out the FAFSA this year.
Sure. I can answer that. You'll want to make it correct as of the day you file the FAFSA. However, if there's a change, if someone ends up still being in college and not graduating, please let us know, and we can go about making that correction for you so that it is accurate. But don't let that stop you from filing, earlier rather than later. Just be sure to let us know as that number maybe changes.
I'll pull a couple questions that I received through our email for family members. We have a question here that says, are there scholarship opportunities for rising sophomores, and are there departmental scholarships?
So I'll kind of touch on this. Like Brooke mentioned in the scholarship section, most of the scholarships are, screened and awarded when the student is admitted to the university their first year. As for departmental awards, I always encourage students, it never hurts to ask your department or whoever you're declaring your major with, do you have any scholarships that I can apply for? Unfortunately, we just don't have any departmental that come out of our office. So if it's department based, that's going to be from them. They would notify us of that and we would move forward from that. And then just for any other scholarships for current students that are already enrolled, utilize the resources on our website with the different scholarship pages that you can look at. And then if you really just want, a more one-on-one, we do have a great scholarships team that's more than happy to sit down with you as well and kind of just go over, or if you feel more comfortable looking at another website, because there are scams and we want you to be diligent and be careful. So if you have one that, we do share ones that are very common. So if you could kind of just stick towards those, then you're going to be more safe. But we don't have enough employees to kind of filter everything. So we have provided you the very most common ones that we do see students actually receive awards from. But we will provide the direct contact for our scholarships department for more questions. And it looks like we just got one that comes through. It says, where do students check for departmental scholarships? Ask your department, ask, a professor that is, in your major, ask them who you can find out from. We don't have the direct information for that, so that might be a little bit of digging that you would have to do on your side, but everyone here is so helpful. I'm sure you could just say, hey, Professor so-and-so, I'm looking at trying to get a scholarship for, being a biology major, who can you direct me to? And then they should be able to get you on your way. We have a question that says, does a departmental scholarship affect financial aid amounts?
I'll take this one. So yes, departmental scholarships and outside scholarships can have an effect on a student's current financial aid. So not to get too far into the weeds, because this will be specific to each student's account, but those outside scholarships do often replace need-based financial aid the student's been offered through the university. We will always try to replace loans or work study first, so that we're increasing the total amount of free money a student has in a given academic year, but it will have an impact. So please feel free to reach out to us. We can let you know exactly how the aid offer would change with that added departmental or outside scholarship.
I have another question that came through my email a few minutes ago. This question is, it looks like this is a mother of a first-year student, and that student accidentally accepted a loan because she thought that it was a grant. They haven't used that loan and would like the government to take it back. How could someone go about that?
Yes, we can do that. So as long as it's within the same academic year, we can help with that. You will email our loans team. I will get their email address in the chat. Just basically let us know what happened and that you want to cancel that student loan, and we can help from there.
And one thing that I will say with our loans is just give them grace. This is something that is a constant, hefty job throughout the academic year and even through the summer. So I think right now their response time is 4 to 6 business days. So if you do respond and it is closer to that end time, just give them a couple more days. And if it's way past that, definitely let us know. But they are doing their best to get through everything as quick as they can. So we just ask for your patience when reaching out to them, but we will get to you, I promise.
A lot going on in the loan world right now, as I'm sure you all know.
Okay, we have another loan question. I tried to accept a loan after the semester started, but I don't believe we ever heard anything else. So if it was a loan for this current academic year, and you accepted it through your Connect Carolina on Take Action on Loan offers, if it was your first time taking out a loan, you could have potential financial aid to-do list items that have not been completed yet. So I would check there first. If you have no to-do list items, then I do suggest reaching out to us so that way we can take a deeper look at your account to see if there's, something. Technology is fine until it's not. So there's all kinds of different things our system can have little hiccups, and if students bring it to our attention, where it's a whole lot easier for us to kind of find those and move forward from that. So I would definitely say reach out to us so that way we can look at your account individually. But if you do have financial aid to-do list items, once you get those completed, then the loans will move forward and disperse to your account. Yep, no problem.
All right, while we wait for folks to maybe tack in a few more questions to the Q&A portion, I'll pull from our anonymous submissions from earlier this week. This question is asking how out-of-state students can apply for scholarships. And I'm wondering if y'all have any advice for those students specifically.
Out-of-state students, you're fine. So you would go the same process, and this is still kind of the same, or like the same situation for our incoming students. Mostly, once you apply to the university, you are, I hate to say the word screened, but you're looked at holistically, need-based and non-need-based, for those scholarships. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of scholarships in general. So where we do meet 100% of calculated need, we have probably about 250 to 280 scholarships a year that we give out to incoming students. So when you kind of look at the math and you see how many students that come in every year versus how many scholarships we have, we just don't have a lot to go around. To get even more fun for students that are out of state that are looking towards maybe summer school, this is kind of when out of state is going to kind of bite you a little bit. But that is also something that is very well detailed on our website with different aid for summer, if that's something that you're interested in. And if you have more questions based after that, we are here to help for that. But unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of scholarships to go around, just in general for in-state and out-of-state students. So it's just a low number that actually receive them.
And I'll just clarify, Marissa means academic scholarships. So again, just majority of our scholarships are need-based, which you're considered for when you submit the FAFSA. And again, this hasn't really come up because it's October. Not many people are thinking ahead to summer school, but like Marissa said, aid for summer school is very different. So if your student is considering summer school, please feel free to get in touch with us later in the spring around that registration time, and we can look at what a summer aid package would look like for your individual student.
We got a question about, I'm assuming this was the money from our governor that came in over the summer, asking when will the $4.25 billion that was raised kick in as a scholarship? Was that the governor's summer money that we can't use yet? Or haven't got more information on?
Yeah, there was an announcement last summer. The governor passed funding that could be used towards summer school for North Carolina students. And so that funding we will be able to use this upcoming summer. Other questions about, campaign for Carolina fundraising. That's a great question. I think we're more in the world of applying for FAFSA and getting that need-based financial aid that's currently available. So I don't know that Marissa and I would best be able to address that. Thank you for clarifying though.
Yes.
Melanie, I'll do my best to see what information I can find for you. But in the meantime, just as a quick question that also came up, does the cost of tuition change from year to year, depending on a student's, like when they come in, whatever their starting cost is, does that change as students progress through the academic years?
Oof, that's a great question. Yes, the cost of tuition can change. I will again defer to the cashier's office since they post the tuition rates each year. And I will just say those are set by our state government, the tuition rates. So they do change year to year. Beyond that, I would point you towards cashiers because I do think they're the experts in that arena.
It looks like we have another question that kind of goes into residency a little bit. It says, how long do I need to live in North Carolina for my daughter to qualify for in-state tuition? She's been paying for out-of-state tuition. I always say I have very baseline knowledge on this, but the registrar is the best place to look for this, or to get share your situation and them have, the best information. They do have a lot of information on their website as well, so you could kind of just navigate that to see if you can find your answer. And if you can't, then they do have a phone line that you can reach them, or you can reach them via email. But they're going to have more the nitty-gritty individualized criteria, whereas we just kind of look at it as once they update everything, we see what tuition that the student receives if they're in-state or out-of-state, and we work from there.
A great question about study abroad. So the great news for students studying abroad is that most of their financial aid will travel with them. So they would still just submit the FAFSA on time like they normally would, and then apply for their study abroad program. Study abroad does have a number of scholarships they'll consider students for as part of that application. But otherwise, it is kind of just the regular aid that students will use when they study abroad. There just might be some additional scholarship opportunities available for them. And we do have a financial aid counselor that works in our study abroad office and works closely with those programs. So I can also drop that contact information into the chat.
And we also haven't had this come across yet, but just as a kind of overview for if you have questions about previous loans and the debt relief, we know is about as much as the federal government puts on their website. So we can kind of just navigate you to the best place on their website. Unfortunately, we don't have insider information. We all wish that we did, but you can kind of follow along on there because we're following along with you. So we have been getting a rise in those questions lately with everything that's happening, and you will get the best information on the studentaid.gov website.
All right, I'll pull another question from my document over here. This participant says, some scholarship disbursements do not arrive in time for the due date for fall semester tuition. What is your recommendation to make sure that there is not an over-withdrawal while also making sure payment is made on time? Is that a cashier's question or?
Sort of. I can answer a little bit. So you can defer your billing due date with the cashier's office 30 days out. So that gives you some extra time for those outside scholarships to come in. I know some are going to come in even later than that. So I would be in touch with the cashier's office about those billing due dates and waiting for those scholarship payments to come in, or using the 529 plan as well.
All right, we're having a little lull in our questions here. Again, as we get to wrapping up, we've got about 15 more minutes left on the schedule, but we won't take that full time if folks do not have additional questions. So again, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. And while we do that, I will continue to pull questions from my list.
We did just get one in our Q&A. My daughter just applied early action to UNC for merit or academic scholarships. Is there a separate form to fill out, and what is the deadline for those? So you would want to fill out the FAFSA and the CSS profile. And then you would want to do it by our priority deadline, which is March the 1st. So we did have a lot of these questions coming in where the early action deadline was a couple of days ago. Getting it in as soon as possible is going to be more ideal. I think our scholarships department does suggest January 1 for those for best giving out practices, but the actual deadline to get those or priority deadline would be March the 1st. But as early as you can get them in is the better option, and you would just need to fill out the FAFSA, the CSS profile.
And just to add on that, students are considered for our academic scholarships based on their application for admission. So there's no separate application for academic scholarships that our office would provide. Like Marissa was saying, maybe we said this at the top, but some of our academic scholarships do look at financial need as well. So that's why we would recommend also go ahead and getting in the FAFSA and CSS profile.
And I think while we're pulling some more questions, Jalen, I will just drop this into for parents and students. If you do meet with us and have questions about your account or your child's account, we do require PIN numbers. So this is just kind of a heads up. You can find more information on our website of how to create those. But we do have to have those present when speaking on your personal account or your child's account. Just we have federal and institutional things that we have to abide by just for privacy. So just make sure you have those so that way we can help you to our fullest ability and not just kind of generalize things for you on that.
I just want to say, someone had asked, will we be sending a link of this recording? Yes, we will be. You should see instructions with how to access that in the coming days. I just need a little bit to render the video and cut out all of our technical difficulties at the beginning.
I can quickly answer the question that just came in. Our FAFSA and CSS profile required. If you want to be considered for financial aid, yes. We only require the CSS profile for a student's first year at UNC. So if you've already done the profile once, you're good to go on that. But FAFSA every year and CSS profile in the first year to be considered for need-based financial aid.
All right, and I'll say that we'll take the next 2 minutes for folks to get in any last minute questions before we go, and then I'll give y'all 10 minutes back to your day. I'm wondering while we're waiting, I know that we've spoken about it in our chat, but a lot of the questions that I'm seeing here that folks submitted are very specific to their individual cases. And so I wanted to give y'all a minute to plug where folks can reach you, where they can contact you if they have an individual question and would like to sit down with you for a chat.
Sure. So like I said, we have appointments, in-person, phone, virtual. You can schedule those on our website. Our website is studentaid.unc.edu. So if you want a one-on-one conversation with a financial aid counselor, please do that. We have appointments daily, 8:30 to 4 p.m. And we have 2 native Spanish speakers on our team. So we also offer that. If you want to call us, we can definitely help via the phone. Our number is 919-962-8396. I still don't have it memorized. And then our email is aidinfo@unc.edu. Drop-in hours in Pettigrew Hall, 111 Pettigrew from 10 to 3, Monday through Friday. FAFSA assistance appointments and appointments for prospective students as well. Just while I'm on a roll, we have email addresses for study abroad that was just dropped in the chat. For outside scholarship searches, for our academic scholarships, for our work study program. So please get in touch with us. We can point you in the right direction, or we can definitely look at your account one-on-one and help with that.
It looks like we got a couple more in while you were going over some things. So it looks like FAFSA eligibility changed in this current year due to changes in visa status. Is this also the case for the CSS profile not required?
Ooh, so if you have not filed a CSS profile before, this is your first time applying for need-based financial aid, you will also want to do the CSS profile. So even though it's not technically your first year at UNC, yes, please submit that as well. We got a question about HIPAA. So we have a little bit of a different policy. We have FERPA, which means that we have to be very, very careful about students' information. And so that is why we require students to have a PIN and students to create PINs for anyone else, like parents or family members, that they want to be able to speak about their account. For the FAFSA specifically, you would need that PIN and you need to be listed as a parent on the FAFSA for us to discuss those, because obviously that is private information that's reported there.
I'll also, as the end part of that question, they asked if Abby would introduce herself. So I'll pass it over. Abby, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Saucedo. I am a project coordinator here with the New Student Family Programs Office. I'm a junior studying economics and real estate, so it's been real nice to be here and help facilitate the chat.
Thank you, Abby.
And then we have a student that is a rising sophomore. What if they use the CSS profile to explain a new financial situation in the comments section of the profile?
You can do that. However, it would be much easier on you, so that you don't have to do a profile again, and on us, if you would instead apply for an aid reconsideration through our office, or just get in touch with us about the situation or the change in the financial situation, and we can best advise from there. That way you are not trudging through the CSS profile a second time, maybe unnecessarily, but we would look at that on a case-by-case basis.
All right, and with that, perfect, yep. And with that, we have reached the end of our questions that we have listed on our end. So at this point, I'll say, if y'all have all of your questions answered and are all set, then please feel free to exit now. We'll hang out for a few minutes for anyone who has maybe any last-minute questions or things that they're typing up as I'm talking. But other than that, I really appreciate y'all coming to participate in our live seminar. And thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions. It looks like we've got one more question about scholarships for graduate students.
So aid-wise, initially, graduate students don't typically get grants or scholarships. They are awarded their loans. But with that said, you can always ask your department. For departmental awards, we'll see different, departmental fellowships, scholarships, things like that. But that is going to be something that strictly comes from your department instead of initially through us, since there is no need-based aid once you get to grad school.
All right, and as things slow down, I want to say thank you to Brooke and Marissa for taking some time out of your day to be here with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you. We can't wait to meet all of you and your students in person to help with all the financial aid questions.
Right. Thanks for having us, guys.
Of course. For any folks who are still on their way out, I am going to end our recording and end our seminar here, but please feel free to reach out to either of our offices. You can reach Brooke and Marissa using aidinfo@unc.edu, and you can reach myself and Abby at newstudents@unc.edu. So feel free to send an email to whichever department you have a question for, and thank you again for being here.